Coming up on Tech News Today, why iOS 7 could be delayed. I've got an idea why. Path in spam trouble again. And will Google merge Chrome and Android? All that more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for May the 1st, 2013. International Morris Dancers of the World Unite. You have nothing to lose but your slightly alcoholic Finnish lemonade. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used Samsung, Galaxy, iPhone, and other smartphones are worth at Gazelle.com. And by Tonks Coffee. Tonks offers a bi-weekly subscription. Tonks sources their beans directly from the growers. They're roasted and shipped within 24 hours, giving you the freshest coffee beans in the world. For a free sample, visit tonx.org/TNT. That's tonks.org/TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Alex Gumpel.
And we are the folks who are going to break down the important tech news of the day for you, put it in some context, and we'll start with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. T-Mobile USA now officially owns Metro PCS. After a slightly turbulent approval process, the combined company loses an A, becoming T-Mobile US, and will trade under the stock symbol TMUS, TMUS. Metro PCS stockholders got $1.5 billion US, and T-Mobile gets precious mobile spectrum from Metro PCS, allowing LTE coverage of 90% of the top 25 metro areas. T-Mobile CEO John Legere remains CEO of the combined company, and Metro PCS will continue as a separate brand.
TMUS sounds like a dinosaur of some kind. Jonathan Ive, Apple's product visionary who took over iOS after Scott Forstall's departure last year, is not only shunning skeuomorphic designs like wooden bookshelves in the newsstand, but also revamping email and calendar tools, anonymous sources tell Bloomberg. Ive is also said to be encouraging collaboration between software and hardware teams, something Steve Jobs was known not to do. Engineers are said to be in a full-on sprint to finish iOS 7 in time for a WWDC preview and for a full release as soon as September.
According to EvLeaks, HTC will introduce a miniaturized version of its flagship HTC One. The device is codenamed the M4, and it will borrow the design from the One. However, the M4 will be a mid-ranged phone with a 4.3-inch 720p screen, 16 gigabytes of capacity, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and have a slower processor than the One. The M4 is expected to be officially introduced by the end of June.
Expect the English to make a lot of jokes about the M4 being backed up. Google released its official schedule for the Google I/O Developers Conference on May 15th. Now, while it doesn't mention a return skydiving performance, it does cut down the keynotes from 2 days to 1, though it's 3 hours long. Sundar Pichai, who is now head of both Chrome and Android, is expected to host the keynote. Previously, Chrome had a separate keynote from Android.
Path, the private social network that maxes out at 150 friends and claims to be adding 1 million users per week, may be doing so a little too aggressively. Users are reporting that the service is spamming their phone's address books with texts and in some cases robocalls to landline phones. Nate Johnson, VP of Marketing for Path, says the messages are supposed to be a feature, not a bug, and said, quote, Path is really best with friends, and we really want to help users invite the people that they care about to their path as quickly as possible.
The U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California dismissed Craigslist's copyright claims against 3Taps, Lovely, and PadMapper. The court found that while Craigslist posts were original enough to give it copyright protection, Craigslist's own terms didn't give it an exclusive license to the data. The court said that without an exclusive license, Craigslist cannot sue for infringement. The terms of use provision that purportedly granted Craigslist the right to sue is impermissible. 3Taps didn't get off scot-free and was found to violate the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act because it went around technical barriers Craigslist put up to keep 3Taps off of its site.
Technical barrier? Okay. A piece of spyware called FinSpy, used by some governments for remote monitoring, is the target of a cease and desist by Mozilla. The issue is that FinSpy masquerades as the Firefox browser, which Mozilla says is trademark infringement. Toronto's Citizen Lab says they have found 3 instances of FinSpy pretending to be Firefox, right down to the info in Windows properties being copied. The software is alleged to have been used against dissidents in Bahrain and Ethiopia, among others.
Samsung's latest camera in its NX line is now available. The NX 2000 has some impressive specs. 20.3 million pixel APS-C size sensor and a DRI-ME4 image processing engine. What's that for? It's designed to reduce noise, improve speed, and boost color reproduction. Continuous shooting at up to 8 frames per second is available. On the back of the camera is a 3.7-inch WVGA full touch screen, which can be used to control pretty much all parts of the camera. We don't have pricing yet, but the NX 2000 will be available in white, black, and pink for I don't know who.
For me.
Who wants a pink phone?
For iJusting. Airbnb added another tool to its arsenal of trust today with the introduction of verified identification in the United States, anyway. Users, whether hosts or guests, could already link their account to Facebook and LinkedIn, but now they can go to airbnb.com/verify and either scan a photo ID with a webcam or answer historical information like you would for a credit check. The system will be mostly voluntary, though a random 25% of users will be required to verify before they can book.
AMD just introduced the world to its heterogeneous uniform memory access technology. Huma Tech would allow CPUs and GPUs to work better together, which AMD says will bring longer battery life in the same form factor. In short, Huma allows GPU and CPU access to the same data and allows each to allocate and access any location in the system's virtual memory space. Tasks are doled out to the processor that can handle the task in a more seamless way. The result? Faster computing, longer battery life.
You can't handle the task. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle. Do you want a new phone? Maybe you want the M4. Maybe you want the One. Maybe you want a Samsung Galaxy S4 or an iPhone 5. Well, in any of those cases, it probably wouldn't hurt to scratch together a little cash. Now, if you're lazy and you're like, I don't want to sell old gadgets, that's a hassle. It's not. If you use Gazelle, go to gazelle.com, Gazelle.com. Do it right now while you listen. You can keep the tab open streaming us or playing us and then go there. Tell Gazelle the condition of the gadget. Be honest, they'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads, and they're going to check on it anyway. Get a risk-free offer for your gadgets and lock it in for 30 days. That's the best part. You don't want to delay because gadget's probably not going to get more valuable. So you lock in today's price, and then you've got a month. You got 30 days to get your data off there, figure out what you're going to do for your new phone. Then they'll even send you a box. You send it off to Gazelle, and they'll pay you fast. They don't wait 30 days. They turn it around in a couple days. You get paid by check or PayPal. Or if you choose an Amazon gift card, you actually get a 5% bonus. So try it out right now. Go to Gazelle.com. Find out what your iPhone, your Samsung, your other Android smartphones are worth. Take a minute. Gazelle.com. Sell your used Samsung Galaxy or iPhone today. And we thank Gazelle.com for their support of Tech News Today. Also, want to thank Ms. Veronica Belmont of Techzilla for joining us today to talk about the stories in the tech world. How's it going, V?
Excellent. How are you?
I am doing well. I promised myself I would just promote Techzilla this time and not Sword and Laser constantly.
You're allowed to promote Sword and Laser also.
SwordandLaser.com.
Okay.
Let's start off talking about Apple. As we get closer to WWDC, expect the rumors to continue to mount. What are we hearing today, Iyaz?
Yeah, Bloomberg is saying that Johnny Ive is in the midst of a sweeping software overhaul. It's putting the company at risk of falling behind on a new version of iOS. And the goal is to get iOS finished for a June preview at WWDC. But Bloomberg sources say the company still expects to release iOS 7 on time as soon as September, but internal deadlines are being set later than previous editions of iOS. Apparently, Ive is exploring more dramatic changes to the email and the calendar apps. The bigger shifts, like email, may not be even ready this year and may be introduced in future releases, according to Bloomberg sources. And like Sarah mentioned, Ive is trying to get all these teams to work together and talk, unlike Steve Jobs. Veronica, do you think Apple should time the next phone with the next major revision of iOS, or should they be staggering their approach?
I'm actually kind of excited about this, the death to skeuomorphism, because I think that's what they're definitely going for here. I like it when there's a new version of iOS that comes with the new phone, because typically, sometimes when we see updates to the operating system, it doesn't work quite as well as on the past versions of the phone. So it's nice to get a full refresh all at once. But at the same time, I think we're ready for some updates. So I'd be happy to see them in time for WWDC. Though, if they want to make some major changes to the real important apps out there like Calendar and like Mail, things that we haven't seen a big update in for a long time, then maybe it's worth the wait.
Sarah, do you think a design revision would be enough to call it iOS 7? Does Apple need to include brand new revisions of Email and Calendar as well before it could be a major release?
Well, no, not if it looks different. I mean, I think we've heard so much about the flattening of iOS, or the potential flattening of iOS, that I think that's what a lot of people are focused on. Is it going to look different, even if it pretty much works exactly the same? And that could just be, what does your home screen look like? That sort of thing. Do we have rounded edges? Do we lose the drop shadows? That kind of thing. If Email and Calendar look a little different, that's not the same thing as a complete overhaul of the way that they might work. I have a folder of iPad apps that replace the default calendar, just because there are a lot of options out there. And I don't think that the default calendar is the best in iOS, not only in form, but function as well. So I think that there's a lot of pressure on Apple right now to wow everybody. And I think WWDC is going to be a big turning point. If they don't have anything that wows everyone, are people going to be excited come September when they push out iOS 7, even if they get it on time?
I think it's incredible how I'm realizing now that I haven't used Calendar or Mail in so long, because I use Fantastical for calendaring. I use Sparrow or Mailbox for email. So it's like it would have to be a pretty significant change, not only in form, but also in function, for me to switch over from the apps that I use to replace those apps.
Tom, what do you make of this? Do you think that the number 7 makes everything great, or do they have to really introduce new things to call it iOS 7?
That would be nice if they're just like, but it's 7. That's like a holy number. We don't have to do anything else. They definitely need to make a splash here. And all the rumors make it sound like they're going to make a splash one way or another. Whether people like it or not, we'll have to wait and see. But it sounds like they're going to change things. But I do think it could be damaging in the short run, not in the long run, if Johnny Ive puts his foot down and says, no, we are not putting it out until I say it's ready, because we are in that position where investors and even some fans are really looking at WWDC as the thing that's going to save Apple. We need to see something new from them. Now, granted, they could still show off iOS 7 even if it's not ready and just say it's coming in the fall, and then put it out at the last second, or even wait until they've done it before where they said something's coming out in November, say, and they don't put it out until December. I mean, so we'll see something at WWDC either way.
I want to say that Apple has done this before with their MacBook Air lines. They released a new version of the MacBook Air with an operating system upgrade to come like about a month later. I think Apple's got a really enviable position compared to Android devices, because Apple can push out updates without carrier permission. They don't need any of this stuff. As long as you've been using iTunes, you should be able to download and update your phone. So I'm really kind of also curious about what Ive is doing between the software and hardware integration with the next version of the iPhone, because if this new version of the iPhone has hardware features that are just unseen on the original, the iPhone 5, that is, just kind of curious how iOS 7 is going to take advantage of that.
It's May Day, Memorial Day coming up here in the U.S. You'll be able to wear white again after that. And, of course, it means it's developer season. So not only did WWDC come in June 10th, but before that, May 15th, Google I/O, its developer conference. They released the schedule, which if you're a developer, of course, you want to see what all the panels that you can go to and everything are. But for us spectators, we want to know about the keynote. And here's the details. As we mentioned in the news views, 3-hour monster keynote at 9 a.m. Pacific time, May 15th. Android and Chrome combined into one. And this is what got everybody talking. Because, remember, Andy Rubin stepped down earlier this year. Sundar Pichai, who was in charge of Chrome, stayed in charge of Chrome and now is in charge of Android. He's probably going to be the guy who's coming out on stage to tell us everything. It's going to be one keynote, whereas in the past, it was Chrome on one day, Android on the other. Should Android and Chrome be combined? It's time to trot out that old question. Do you think this is any kind of indication that it will be? Veronica, what do you think?
I have no, I mean, that leads me to think so. But I'm curious what you guys think is the reason for them being combined. Because I guess I haven't been following this closely enough. So I don't know what the significance is there.
Well, they have two operating systems, right? There's one on a laptop.
Okay,
there's one on a
gotcha.
phone. A lot of people, Molly Wood's been saying this for years, is like, why do you have two operating systems? Just have one.
I guess when you said Chrome, I was thinking browser only, not the Chrome
Right.
OS. So that makes
Chrome OS
that
is
makes
the
a
one
lot
that really
more
gets
sense.
people talking. Yeah.
Okay, then that would be pretty significant. It would be, I'm not sure how yet, but that would be cool. It would make sense, at least from my point of view, but I'm not an Android expert either.
Sure, and it would make sense. It also, to my mind, makes sense to keep them separate because Chrome is your machine operating system and Android is your mobile device operating system. And as much as they say iOS and OS X are almost the same or based on the same kernel, they are different operating systems. Even Windows Phone, Windows 7, as they get closer and closer, are different operating systems. But as I know, you've covered the idea of Windows creating one kernel across the platforms. Do you think it would be a good idea for Google to do the same thing?
I think as long as they don't fully merge the two operating systems to the point where it's just one feel for the laptop, one feel for the phone, they won't run into trouble. Because the thing what Microsoft's trying to do is they have the UI that looks the same, but things don't operate the same, even though underneath they have the same kernel. I think what Google could do with Chrome OS is if they basically did like a desktop style thing where you could open up Chrome in Android and you could still run all your Chrome apps in that version of Chrome, but then also on the laptop be able to run, I guess, windowed versions of Android apps. So kind of allow interoperability, but not necessarily combining them, but all the apps run on both platforms.
It is, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce your name, Chris, because I think it's Polish. I apologize if it's not, but I'm just going to make a butcher of it. But in the chat room, he points out, hey, it is the same Linux kernel, Chrome OS and Android. So they've already gotten that far. Sarah, do you think it? Yeah, go ahead.
I think I'm going to answer your question before you even ask it. I think this might be something as simple as just a renaming convention. You've got Android, you've got Chrome OS. You throw in the Google Play Store, and it's sort of like, I think that there are people who go, I can tell the difference. I know what this all is. But if there's some sort of unification where the mobile OS is not going to mimic a laptop OS, because as it stands right now, we've never exactly gotten to the point where we can do that yet. That these operating systems have to run somewhat differently, but maybe have, I don't know, more of a unified name. I mean, is it all called Chrome? Yeah, I'm not sure if either Android or Chrome should be the winner there. But I think that might be the simplest answer. Yeah, I'm not sure if that deserves a 3-hour keynote. There's got to be something else going on there. But to me, that seems like that's more of the problem than the idea that a mobile OS should act just like a traditional computer OS.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure what deserves a 3-hour keynote. Does anybody have a good idea? I mean, obviously they'll make a few announcements, but that's a lot of padding.
That is a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no skydiving events this year, it seems like, unfortunately. We don't know. I mean, that could still happen.
Maybe they're going to launch a spaceship or something. That seems odd. I would wait 3 hours for that. Like at the end of Google shuttles.
They're going to jump from space this time with the Google Glass.
Space jumps.
Ooh, maybe. I mean, when you said that having an OS work where the apps will work on both, sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not. I mean, I kind of like having a different operating system for my phone versus my computer, as long as they work well together. But interface-wise, I mean, there's things that you want to be able to do on a phone that you can't do on a desktop, for example. So combining them, it would have to work in a really flawless, kind of seamless way.
All of this has happened before. All of it will happen again. I could be talking about merging OSs, but I'm actually talking about Path getting accused of spamming. What did they do this time?
Well, this is sort of an interesting story. A man by the name of Stephen Kenwright, he lives in the UK. He works in digital marketing. Wrote up a pretty lengthy blog post about a very sort of strange situation that he had when he installed the app Path. It was he's an Android user, but he installed Path, and then he said he kind of looked at it and went, I don't think this is the app for me. Uninstalled it within about 30 minutes. He says went to bed next day. Started getting messages from like everyone in his family, his parents, his grandparents, people who are in his address book on his phone, like his plumber and like the people who sometimes provide like food delivery services to his house saying that they were getting messages, text spam messages, and in some cases their landlines were ringing because in the UK, if you text a landline, the landline will get a phone call and you basically have a robot read the text to you. The text said, Stephen Kenwright has photos to show you on Path. Download the free app. And then there's a link to download the Path app.
Stephen Kenwright has photos to show you on Path.
I know. Isn't that funny? So, some of us would say, well, you see a text like that, you're not going to do anything. Well, Stephen's grandparents don't necessarily understand that. And so he said it was a huge headache. And he was trying to figure out what happened. So he had sent out a tweet and directed it at the Path team. Path eventually responded. About 17 hours later, he said, and they told him Path does not collect data from your phone book. That's not what happened. They don't have numbers for your phone contacts stored anywhere. What happened is for the 30 minutes or so that Stephen was a Path user, the idea from Path was that they wanted to send out messages to his contact list to let them know that Path is really fun when you have a lot of friends on the network with you, because that's what the whole thing is about. Even though it maxes out at 150, it's not fun if you don't have at least 8 or so. I think that's the magic number that Path says to start with. And that it was basically a glitch that it took so long for his contacts to be getting these messages. So even though he was no longer a Path member, the fact that they were getting these messages was actually a feature of Path. That was actually something that was supposed to happen. The service does send out messages to, like, say, your users' Facebook friends during the sign-up process. And then Path assumes that you want to send a message to those friends because when you first sign up, you have to opt out of sending a note to those folks rather than opt in. And that's one of these little gray area, these, right on the lines that get people really upset because, yes, if you look at that sign-up process really carefully, you might say, oh, no, I don't actually want to do this. Let me uncheck that box. But often people don't, and then they get really upset in the process. I have, for my part, I have notifications turned off pretty much on all aspects of Path. But in my notifications within the app itself, I've seen a huge uptick in just random Facebook friends who have joined and, not even necessarily trying to get me to be their friend, just a notification that they're now using the service, which is, adding to the noise. It's definitely adding to the noise. As we mentioned in the news views, Path says it's adding up to 1 million users per week. So that's exponential growth. But at what cost? Veronica, have you noticed any of this? I know you're a Path user as well.
Yeah, I've noticed a pretty big uptick in people on Facebook signing up as well. I find it interesting, though, that they use such a wide-reaching approach to getting new people to sign up because it is supposed to be such an exclusive, tight-knit group of people that you're sharing information with. So you would think they would try to make it a little more specific on who you're inviting as opposed to just kind of blasting your contact list or blasting your Facebook friends. Because Facebook, while you want to still pretty much know everyone on your Facebook page, it's not always necessarily the case. It's not always the people you want to be sharing your more intimate moments with. So I find that approach interesting. I'm not sure why that would be the way to go other than just, kicking off a really exponential growth.
Iyaz, what do you make of this? I know CEO of Path, Dave Moran, has said from the very beginning, he's a Facebook alum himself, that Path is designed to be a true social network with people you actually are close to. It's not about signing up as many people as possible. Does this seem sort of counterintuitive?
It seems like it could be a PR nightmare, but I'm just thinking about the idea of Path, since it is supposed to be the closest people, and if this guy spammed his entire contacts list, it's these people that forgive you that probably will join Path. These are the people who put up with you. You're supposed to have the closest people with you. I think this guy just didn't opt out of something. A lot of these, it can't be... We can't have reached to the point of applications where we download an application proactively, and then we've refused to read everything, and then get really annoyed that the thing I didn't read made something happen. Just pay attention a little bit more.
That may be the proper thing to tell Stephen Kenwright. I don't disagree with you there. But the thing to tell Path is, if you opt people in, you're going to get people like Stephen Kenwright really upset at you. And this is the lesson of make people opt out. Let people opt in, and you cut out this kind of frustration. But because it's unselect all, not select all, and people do this all the time, they just pass through without reading, you're going to get people upset at you.
And since they've had some situations in the past with similar kinds of frustrations from users, maybe it's better to err on the side of caution rather than hope for the best.
I think they're both wrong. Steven should have paid more attention, and Path shouldn't be making people opt out.
I cannot get my normal friends to join Path. All my internet friends are on Path, but my regular friends who don't work in the tech industry are just not interested.
Yeah, Eileen was actually stunned when we moved down to LA. People have no idea about Path. They're like, I don't even know what that is. It's not a thing. Let's take a quick break and thank a brand new sponsor. Welcome to Tech News Today, Tonks.
Yeah, Tonks is actually sort of the perfect service for someone like me because I am a coffee lover. I do not go a day without it. And my current situation is walking down the street to a lovely but rather expensive cafe to get my coffee. The idea that Tonks has is there's no reason that I should be, in the position where I get crappier coffee just because I don't want to go to the fancy cafe down on the corner. The idea is that Tonks will ship quality beans directly to me. They source their beans directly from growers, roast them, and ship them within 24 hours of roasting, which is extremely important because fresh beans mean better coffee, and you can do it right at home. So really good coffee, shipped within 24 hours of roasting, homebrewed coffee. If you are enough of a coffee connoisseur, you know it can be just as good as the best cafe out there. Baristas aren't magicians, but you have to start with really, really good beans. You can't get good beans if you've got pre-ground coffee or coffee that's been sitting on a shelf at a grocery store for a really long time. What's nice too is it's convenient. I mean, if you're used to stuff being shipped to your home, you know how great convenience is. Tonks is bi-weekly subscription. So they send out the best beans directly to your door for the price of a few coffee visits. That's the issue too. You save a lot of money too. If you're hitting a cafe like I am most mornings or every day, this is a much more economical way to get the same kind of coffee. And again, they source directly from the growers, so that's important too. They've got the right relationships. And if you look at their About Us page at tonks.org, you can see that a lot of people that are working there really, really take coffee seriously. So they're our kind of folks. So if you are a fancy coffee connoisseur, you just love coffee, try out Tonks Coffee. You can visit tonks.org/TNT to get some coffee or, give it to somebody as a gift. Maybe you're like, I don't love coffee, but I know that person who does. Every 2 weeks, get a new batch of incredible beans roasted to perfection. So visit tonks.org/TNT today. And thanks to them for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today.
Become a coffee achiever. That's what I like.
That's your Twitter. That's your Twitter bio.
That has been my Twitter bio since I began Twitter in one way or another. Thanks to Tux for supporting Tech News Today. All right, Sarah, we shouldn't have backed all your stories up right against that, I guess. But AOL is joining the fight, bringing out some original online video.
This is what all the cool kids are doing, obviously. We talked yesterday about how Yahoo is what was it, 6 new original shows. AOL says, me too. They've got 15 new original, looks like all reality-based programming. You got a tech show with Justine Iserick, who's known as iJustine, has a huge YouTube following. You've got a fitness show with Gwyneth Paltrow and a celebrity trainer, Tracy Anderson. You've got a show about the behind the scenes of the New York Ballet with Sarah Jessica Parker, sort of a weird one. You've got a random reality show with Nicole Richie, who is known for being on reality shows. Car racing, food. Again, all reality-based, though, and this is part of AOL On, which is sort of their original programming and smart TV programming efforts. They've got partnerships with Sony and Samsung smart TVs. I've got a little AOL app on my Samsung TV at home, for example. Roku app, Boxy app, TiVo app. But at this point, this is all, I would say, and maybe I'm going a little too far here, but I would say AOL is probably the least up and coming or cool of these Amazons and Netflixes and even Yahoos to be pushing out original programming. Am I wrong, Tom? What is this? Is this all just everyone's got to do this because Netflix has had some success with House of Cards?
Somewhat. I think you're right. I also think that everybody's been deciding to do this since Hulu launched, and they saw, okay, this is what the network's strategy is going to be. Put some stuff online, but delay it, make it harder to get to, put a bunch of ads in it. Okay, so the networks are not going to take over online. They're not going to move in. That leaves it open for us. We can capture a market that's dying for high-level programming out there. And that's when Netflix got into the game with House of Cards. 2 years ago is when they bid on that. That's when Yahoo started looking at original programming. That's when AOL started looking at original programming. And we're just seeing the fruition of all of that coming at the same time. But as I said, they got some big names here. Maybe it's not appealing to me or you, but it might appeal to somebody. Sarah Jessica Parker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Veronica.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to say because my husband works for AOL, but AOL is really they're in the content business now at this point, between all the different websites that they run and the content businesses that they're operating right now. So I think they're coming at it from kind of a unique perspective, because a lot of the companies that have started rolling out this original content, they were in the distribution business previously. And so it's kind of curious to me to see a company like AOL that has been in the content creation business going into now, original video content, which is something they've done a little bit in the past, but this is really the first time that they've gone with top quality creators. It's also interesting that they're all doing reality, which is less expensive, obviously, than some of the other ways they could have gone. There's just so much different content out there right now. I think it's getting difficult for consumers to try to figure out where to find it and where to get it. I think that's probably the biggest issue from that perspective for me. Too much stuff. Too many eyeballs. Not enough eyeballs for all the stuff.
Need more eyeballs.
Iyaz, when you think of AOL, and like Veronica said, that's a really good point, that reality programming, you've seen it in television for years now, is cheaper. You can sort of mass produce ideas and clones of ideas. It's not the same thing as an episodic fictional series. Is this something that's going to appeal to enough folks that makes it worth AOL's time and effort?
Possibly. Like Thomas mentioned, the big names, and as Veronica's mentioning, the low cost of reality shows. You put those together, you got people that probably will look at this, and theoretically the production values don't have to even be that high, because I still think for the most part, when it comes to the mainstream, I'm taking a look at AOL's partners, Sony, Samsung, Roku, TiVo, they're not necessarily looking for the highest production values for internet video. They're not thinking, oh yeah, it can look like television. So following somebody with a shaky cam, like Sarah Jessica Parker, whoever the heck's in this thing, it'd probably be more acceptable. And if AOL's already on all these devices, I don't know what content they already have on there. I've never bothered to install their application on any of these devices, and I have a number of them. So I guess they have to do something if they're going to bother to have all these partners.
Well, one of the ways that we were going to see this war kind of heat up was if Yahoo got a hold of their own video delivery service. We know that they're coming up with original shows, but there was a lot of rumor that they were going to buy Dailymotion. I guess those rumors have been put to rest now, huh?
Yeah, a Reuters report says that the rumored Yahoo Dailymotion deal is dead after objections by the French government. Now, Yahoo was looking to buy a 75% stake in Dailymotion, which is owned by France Telecom Orange. Dailymotion would have been valued around $300 million. Now, the French government was concerned that the country would lose control over one of its biggest internet successes. However, the government and France Telecom were working on a deal to get Yahoo 50% ownership, but Yahoo said no, according to the Wall Street Journal. Veronica, with the content deals Yahoo's lining up, they're doing their own original things, and then rejecting a 50% ownership stake in Dailymotion. Do you think Yahoo's going to try to pick up a substitute for this company?
That would be an interesting idea. I've said interesting like 50 billion times in this episode.
That's
it's becoming It's so interesting, isn't it? But who would they go for? If they, obviously they're not getting Dailymotion. I found it really fascinating that France was like, nope, we're holding on to this one. We're not going to let that American company get their claws into our big internet success. So who else would be another option if not Dailymotion? What else is out there right now? I'm trying to think.
To-do. I'm trying to think of some of the big Asian names in video sharing. But I think most of the really successful ones are already owned by the likes of an Alibaba or somebody. So I'm not sure there's one that like Dailymotion that's indie that you could snap up that already has some success. Vimeo, maybe?
Yeah,
Who
I was
owns
thinking
Vimeo?
maybe Vimeo. I don't know if anyone does own Vimeo. I think they are their own entity.
It's IAC, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Oh,
is it
okay.
IAC?
They're
Yeah.
a Barry Diller thing. Gotcha.
Yeah, I believe that's who owns
So
Vimeo. What
they're
about
not-
like a Blip TV
They also
or
own College Humor, so they couldn't get them.
Yeah.
IAC owns College Humor, right?
yes?
So yeah, that would be a no-go. And why would Yahoo say no to 50%? That's also interesting. Oh, damn it, I did it again.
It could just be the fact that Yahoo didn't want to be dealing with a company that could be poked around by a government. I would doubt that Yahoo wants to even be in a deal with something like this that would cause government intervention. I know a lot of deals happen like that in the U.S., and SoftBank's try to take over Sprint, so you have these governmental interventions all the time. But I think Sarah mentioned Blip.tv. I don't think they're owned by any major company.
They're actually owned by Bain Capital.
Oh, is that Mitt Romney's
You're
company?
kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, former company, yeah.
He's not doing anything with it.
That's their funder anyway. So yeah, they're an indie.
But they're I don't consider them a huge player. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sure what Yahoo would get out of that exactly.
Well, so here we all are trying to figure out what's the Daily Motion that Yahoo can get, if not Daily Motion, and nobody seems to be able to come up with anything, which is probably part of the reason that this is so attractive to Yahoo, and they want more than half of the total stake because they want to control it.
Yeah, but why not Hulu? Hulu's been sitting around kind of floundering. They've been looking
Too
for a buy.
expensive.
Yahoo wanted them.
Absolutely too
Well,
expensive.
they wouldn't have to buy 100% of them. They could buy a pretty good, maybe a quarter of the stake of it, and they would have some monstrously big deals there. They've tried to get them before. The fact that it's too expensive, and now they're not bothering with Dailymotion, they might want to try it.
Ken from Chicago suggested Funny or Die. I don't know who owns them, if anybody.
Funny or Die is owned by somebody. Who is it?
Is it?
It's not Sony, but or at least it's backed by
What
somebody.
about My
big.
Damn Channel?
Somewhere there's a big Yahoo presentation slide of all the companies that are owned by other companies. They're like, well, which one was left?
Oh,
Dailymotion.
it's owned by somebody big, Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
Just
but
buy
it's
Will
not.
Ferrell.
But
just
you
buy
can
Will
just
Ferrell,
buy it from
problem
Will Ferrell.
solved.
Will Ferrell probably doesn't want to sell it. He's like, no.
He could be a chief Yahoo. I mean, that would be
Stay
perfect
classy.
for Will Ferrell.
Oh, they're recommending all sorts
yes,
of things. Vimeo, Netflix, Justin TV, YouTube. Wait, not YouTube. Oh, YouTube with the little U.
Right. that's another one of the Asian. Is that one indie? That might be a good one. All right. Let's finish up our discussion stories with Retwact. And I'm not being cute when I say that. It's RETWACT. It is a news service that allows you to take back your Twitter posts even after they've been retweeted. Created by Stonely Baptiste at go.rtrt.co. It will pull up, once you authorize the app, it will pull up the last 5 of your posts that have been retweeted and allow you to send an hashtag RTRetract via the @Retwact Twitter account to all of the users who have retweeted the original message. So you don't have to sit there and try to hope that they all see it. They get an @reply saying, hey, this post has been retracted. You delete your post yourself, and then you kind of hope that the people who get the message from Retwact will then either delete that original post or look at your modified version, because you can send a modified version and say this is actually what it should have been if there's a factual error or misspelling or something like that. And they get a link to show the original and the corrected post side by side.
This is so timely. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion around this recently. I know Matt Honan from Wired and Matt Buchanan from The New Yorker were discussing this over Twitter in the past week, because Matt Honan had a hard time because he tweeted some untrue information about the Boston bombing, and once that goes out there and you get retweeted, and then those people retweet it and send out quotes about things, then suddenly you've got this snowball effect that you have no control over. And then other people were suggesting maybe Twitter should implement some kind of solution to this problem. Can you edit your tweets and then have that populate throughout the Twitter sphere and have that corrected tweet go out? But then people have been tweeting something, will have tweeted something that they did not intend to retweet. You know what I mean? So is there an edit feature that needs to be built in? Is there something like a third-party system like Retwact that should be used more commonly? Or should people just be super sure of what they're tweeting in the first place and not make mistakes like that? So it's one of these interesting questions that's not going to be solved anytime soon, I think. But this is a good start. And I said interesting again. Good.
Is it a good start, though, Iyaz? What do you think? I mean, it certainly is a start, and I actually like what Stoneleigh has done quite a bit here, but it relies on the kindness of others, I guess. It's
definitely an interesting idea, and I think that what has to happen with something like this kind of service, this is something that Twitter should be looking into for its verified sources or verified companies like Breaking News and these other reputable news sources that are using Twitter to get this information as quickly as possible. And sometimes that information isn't accurate. And spreading this kind of misinformation is dangerous. I think this is just a good start. It seems like something that either Twitter should be looking to buy or build into their own systems, but offer it to a limited amount of people. Because as Veronica's mentioning, there would be a bunch of people using this for pranks, retweeting a whole bunch of jokes and things like that. But this is Twitter's being used as a news source, and if you're going to do that, it has to be somewhat responsibly.
I feel like the community standards of the internet have dealt with the problem of editing your posts for a long time. Some forums allow it, some don't, and there are lots of standards around that. I'm sure Twitter could come up with something they felt comfortable with, Sarah. But do you think it's a good idea to allow people to change what they've already posted?
Well, retwacked is very clunky. If I tweet out something and then for whatever reason, and it spreads like wildfire, or even gets retweeted a couple times, and for whatever reason I go, oh gosh, this is bad. I don't want this to be originated by me. And I use retwack to then @reply these folks with the proper hashtag. I mean, how many of these people are even going to understand what that weird @reply is from me? This is where Twitter tends to break down. I mean, there are a lot of great uses for Twitter. And Veronica, as you mentioned, maybe it just all starts with making sure you're responsible tweeting in the first place. For the majority of Twitter users, that's never going to fly. So it would be really nice to have some sort of internal tool that allowed you to have an option besides deleting original tweet and breaking the thread, which is just confusing and makes you sometimes look guilty or as if you're hiding something, or having to tweet out again and basically add anyone who's following you in on a conversation that they don't necessarily need to be in on. I don't know what the elegant solution is. I think that this is where Twitter really fails as an elegant solution at all because of just the way that it's set up. And I'd be interested to see if they address this.
As a person who cannot properly type, I would like the ability to correct my spelling mistakes. But I'm not. I do understand that there has to be a limit on that. You can't just let people go and change things at any time. So you, the audience, will have to decide for yourselves whether you think retwacked is whack or not. Let's move on to the randomizer. Type responsibly, says Iyaz to me in the chat room. I try. This is taking the internet by storm today. IBM has made what Guinness Book of World Records certifies is the world's smallest movie because they used atoms of copper to make this movie. They actually used a scanning and tunneling microscope to move atoms around and then make a stop-motion film called A Boy and His Atom, which shows a boy built out of atoms coming along and messing around with his little copper atom.
Aw. He's a dancer.
Those of you on audio, you'll just have to go and the link is everywhere on the internet. Of course, we have it in the show notes as well. But yeah, he's just dancing around. It looks like a 1950s animation movie. But it's made with a microscope. 242 frame film, stop motion shots, operating at a bone-chilling negative 268 degrees Celsius. This is IBM just showing off.
Maybe IBM's doing a pivot. They're going to become a movie studio.
An atomic movie studio.
I mean, IBM does research. Why not? They can start Watson.
I mean, it's like IBM's little Hello World type thing.
That is awesome, though.
It's adorable. Oh, yeah, look, they dotted their I.
With an atom. With a freaking atom. They dotted their I.
That must have taken a really long time.
Yes, I can't imagine. This must be their 50% time project. or something. That's just crazy stuff. Let's see what's happening in the near future on the calendar.
Sounds good. Let's start with tomorrow. LinkedIn is reporting their earnings. Let's move on to May. LG's Optimus G Pro is coming to the U.S. Exclusively to AT&T on May 10th. It'll be priced at $199.99. And Netflix, we were talking about original programming earlier in the show, is bringing out a new original series called Orange is the New Black and will debut on July 11th. So something to look forward to this summer.
So we had Hemlock Grove in April. We've got Arrested Development in May. We've got Orange is the New Black coming in July. Is there one coming in June that I'm forgetting? Or are they skipping a month?
I don't think I heard of a June one.
They're coming fast and furious, though.
They are fast and furious. And as Iyaz pointed out in the chat room, it is actually May 1st. So I was looking ahead to May, but we're already in May. So
May the first be with you.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
First of May.
Very good multitasker.
Incoming is time.
Message.
We got a message from Chris. It says, "Hey, TNT gang, listening to your April 30th show, I heard you talking about Thorsten's opinion that tablet computers won't last 5 years. While I don't agree with that, I can see how it might happen eventually. I would personally like to see the smartphone become a black box that seamlessly interfaces with whatever preferred audio and or video devices you have with it, be it an HDTV, a Google Glass type of thing, or a Bluetooth earpiece, and yes, maybe even a tablet. With no screen to power, battery life would improve, even with the extra wireless connections. The black box in your pocket would become a gateway device responsible for keeping you connected and protecting your private information at the same time. I believe personal communication tech is headed in this direction eventually, but I don't believe we'll see it in the next 5 years, as Mr. Hines suggested. Maybe in about 20 years we'll see it. I listen to your show via podcast just about every night while driving my delivery route, and it keeps me informed as well as awake. Keep up the good work."
Chris, watch out. Wake up. Sorry.
It's going to scare Chris.
No, he probably did like jerk.
I hope he's all right.
I'm actually with Chris on this. I think Thorsten Hines is crazy to say 5 years, but sure, eventually the tablet interface becomes deprecated and we just like are waving our hands in the air, right?
There's
you just don't care.
There's things like
with purpose, either way.
There's things like the pad phone and the way that Google Glass is supposed to be a companion device to a smartphone. I could see what he's talking about there. What I would like to be able to do is to pay for that one device to send out the internet signal instead of bothering to pay for tethering for Google Glass like I found out on the Engadget post the other day.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hopefully Paul Miller saw this today because he's back on the internet. Welcome back to the internet, Paul Miller. That is it for this episode of Tech News Today. Veronica Belmont, host of Fact or Fictional, thank you for joining us.
You are welcome, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the interesting drinking game today. You should all be good and sauced by now. I know
you had a really interesting Fact or Fictional. I really enjoyed this last episode.
Oh, yeah? Which one?
It was the one where you showed now I can't remember. You put me on the spot. What was your last one? Your most recent?
Cloud Cities was recent. I don't think it was the last one though.
Oh.
Well, we've got a lot of great ones coming up. We're doing a Game of Thrones episode.
What about cyborgs? Because you actually found out that it was fact.
Yes, cyborgs are definitely already almost here. We did an episode on Cloud Cities. We're doing one on Game of Thrones weather coming up. We're doing an Inception episode. So a lot of fun stuff. It's over at youtube.com/techfeed.
Excellent. Check it out. And, of course, veronicabelmont.com to keep up with everything Ms. Belmont does.
Yes, the new website is coming soon.
Thank you for watching or listening. You can find us on the web at twit.tv. Oh, don't forget our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. That's where you can submit stories for us. We look at that every day to figure out stories. You can find us all the time at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can give us a call, leave us a voicemail. Phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Mike Hurley joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.